unlike the Hellbringer Virago, which I bought with the express purpose of just turning it into a laser boat, I got the Shadowcat because it has a good range of different builds. So you've seen, or you might have seen, the upload of the Shadowcat with 2 heavy lasers, an ER medium, and ECM. So it basically becomes a smaller, more mobile version of the Hellbringer. So I know it's effective, but it's also kind of boring because I've already got the Hellbringer. So this is one of the other builds that I've had planned for the Shadowcat for a while. You still retain the 2 heavy large lasers for a good punch, and then you have half a dozen light machine guns for just tearing up their internals once you've stripped away armor. And I'm just testing heat there, by the way. Still fairly toasty despite only having 2 energy weapons. I've got tons and tons of ammo, so I can really stay in a fight a long time and just keep my machine guns focused on someone, even if their armor isn't already stripped. You know, the machine guns don't do a great job of tearing away armor, but when you have half a dozen of anything, it's going to do okay. And I specifically went with light as opposed to regular machine guns because of the extra range. Granted, it's still not that close to the range of the heavy large lasers, but it's far better than standard machine gun range, which is I think about 130 meters. So this lets me kind of keep my distance while I'm, firing any of my weapons. And thankfully they're all very high mounted, so this mech really does lend itself to hill peeking. We get into a little bit of a brawl right away. Unfortunately, I find myself staring at a Mad Cat Mark II, so I immediately mask backwards. That's why you saw my lasers suddenly jerk up and left a little bit. When you engage your mask, your weapons swing wild. And I've got another big assault again, so using mask, backing away. I took quite a bit of damage, more than I would have liked for, such an early stage of the fight. But still, it was okay. I was doing, I may have gotten myself into bad situations, but I was doing what I needed to get myself out of them as well. And that was a much better example of how I should be playing this. Even though I was kind of bouncing up and down while I was hill peeking, I was still barely exposing while I was still getting to fire at my targets. And there, after having 2 of my friendlies walk on my head, I decided I needed to be in a different position, so I didn't, keep them exposed for longer. And I wanted to go for that Zeus because I know they usually have a really strong, SRM build, but I got poked by, I guess it was this Mislinks from my right side. So I went after him. And my positioning was really terrible for a good portion of this match. I should have done more to separate myself just a little bit from my team so that I could, get an angle on my targets.
Acquired.
Yeah, and they have, I think, 1 or 2 snipers that just sort of perch on that hill and just never leave. So it does kind of limit where I can go for this fight.
Target acquired.
Here I'm swinging around again because the Marauder 2C is dead, and I wanted to get I believe it was a Mislinks that was next to him. Instead I see that Zeus from earlier that I wanted, and apparently I blew off his arm.
New target acquired.
Target spotted.
New target acquired.
So here that Zeus took out my friend, but he's stripped enough that I disable pretty much all of his weapons. He's gone from being an assault mech with a fairly powerful loadout to being an assault mech with exactly 1 laser. So he wasn't going to do anything at that point. Now here I start to push my mask really hard because I know we've got those snipers on that hill behind me, and I don't want anyone to get a lucky gal shot or something and take me out. So I stumble across a nearly dead hunchback, and then the mistlink from much earlier in the match.
Target destroyed.
What's that minimum range for the PVCs?
At this point I know that it's pretty much down to whatever was on their sniping hill, plus something else that I hadn't seen really. So somehow I missed that guy to my right. I just didn't even see him.
Artillery strike.
So, you know, they got a free shot on me. Fortunately, they were going for my teammate rather than me, and by the time he turns around for me, I was just able to use my jump jets, because Shadowcats just have a large number of jump jets, to completely get out of his pitch angle. So that caused him to completely forget I existed for a little while. And I wish I had been at a complete stop before I started firing at his back, and then I might have actually, you know, stripped away some weaponry rather than just, you know, splashing the lasers around. And here I make another mistake. I'm so used to thinking about trying to take out the right torso when I see a marauder that I, you know, start aiming for that. But this marauder has its most dangerous weapons in its arms. That's where the Gauss rifles are located. So, you know, one arm is already open and the other one has lost some armor, so I could have, you know, literally disarmed this mech fairly easily if I had just remembered where I needed to aim. But then I get in this position where, you know, I'm kind of open and damaged, and they don't have very many mechs, but neither do we, and what they do have left is fairly powerful. It can take me out quickly enough. So I wind up just timidly peeking over and trying to take out components and not get destroyed in the process. But while I've been over here fighting, I've still got a couple teammates that are in the circle. You know, I always prefer to extend the fight as long as I can rather than going for the objective, but it is the objective, so I can't really knock them for doing what the game mode tells them to do. So I only got a couple of kills. I did do quite a bit of damage and knocked off a few components, and so this build has worked out really well, and I've got one more build that I wanted to see how well I can do with